Our next speaker is EksAyn Anderson, B2B sales expert, trainer, and speaker. He's the author of The Key to the Gate.
My name is EksAyn Anderson. I'm glad to be here with you today. EksAyn is really my name. Some people think I'm joking when I tell them that. They say it's Swedish. I've been to Sweden. There's not a single person in Sweden named EksAyn. My wife calls me X. I don't know if that's a good thing if your wife calls you X. I had a problem with a bank account once, and I decided to go down to the bank and see if I could get the problem worked out with the account. And so I went there. There was a gentleman who helped me with my account, and he took a lot of time helping me through to figure out this problem with my account. And I was very grateful for his help and for the time he took. And so after he'd helped me, I said, "Can I get the email to your boss?" And he said, "Sure." He was a little surprised. I said, "You've done such a good job, I want to write a letter to your boss." And I could tell he was a little bit taken aback. He may have been more used to getting negative comments than positive. But I ended up writing a quick letter to his boss that said something like this. I don't remember exactly the words I used, but it was something like this. I spoke briefly with, let's call him Chad. Chad was very professional and helpful. He's an asset to your team. He deserves a raise and a promotion. So it was a really nice email. I sent it to his boss, and then I copied it to the gentleman who had helped me. A week or two later, I came back in, and I'm standing at the end of the line waiting for my turn to do my banking, and there may be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people in front of me. Somebody comes up and says to me, and I didn't even recognize this person. They come up to me and they said, "Mr. Anderson, can I help you with your banking?" And took me from the back of the line and let me do my banking ahead of everybody else who was in line. That didn't just happen one time. It happened more than once when I went to that bank after I'd sent this email to the boss. Now, why would that happen? The reason I think it happened is because I'd taken the time to positively reinforce him for something he did right. And people react to that. That's a principle. It's a principle. I call it the honey works better than vinegar principle. If I had gone into that bank and I said, "I can't believe you messed up my account and what's going on," and acted indignant, I might have gotten what I wanted in the short run, but in the long run, they may have avoided me. They might have said, "Hey, don't talk to that guy. He's trouble." But because I took the time to do something nice for someone else, good things happened. Now, fast forward a few years. I'm sitting in a director's office in New York. He looks at me and he says, "You are the only guy, the only salesperson that I've let come and talk to me about this product." And I was surprised because I knew competition was fierce for this. He said, "The reason you are here is because you were nice to my secretary." He said, "I talk to my secretary more than I talk to my wife, and some salespeople don't understand that." Now let's think about that for a little bit. He said, "The reason that I got in," he did not say, "It's because you have a great website." He did not say, "It's because you have a great marketing program." He did not say, "You have phenomenal social media and that's why I wanted to talk to you." He said, "You're the only guy I've let here to speak to me because you were nice to my secretary." Now you may ask, what did I do? What did I do to get an appointment with that director in New York? And the answer is pretty much the same thing I did at the bank. What had happened was this. I actually wrote him an email. And like most emails, it was ignored. By the way, most emails do get ignored. I then called a few days later to see if I could follow up on that email and talk to him. And I was told by the secretary, as you've probably experienced before, or at least may, she told me, she said, "He's not available." And I said, "Oh, okay. Maybe what I could do then is resend that email to him and copy it to you. Would that be okay?" And she said yes. And I noticed while she was helping me that she was very professional and helpful, which a lot of secretaries are. And I said that to her. I said, "You've been very professional and helpful. I'm going to mention that to your boss." And I sent the email. And I could tell when I said that something changed. She was actually, I think she was grateful that I was acknowledging her to her boss. I sent the email to her boss. The first line said something like, "I spoke briefly with," let's just call her Janice. "I spoke briefly with Janice. She was very professional and helpful." And then that was the first line of my email, and I had resent the email that I sent later. And then the rest of my email said something like, "I'm going to be in the area on these days, and maybe we could meet." And that one little act of complimenting her to her boss was what got me that appointment. This is not rocket science, folks. This is a principle that's been around for a long time. It's called the golden rule. The golden rule, if you know how to use it, will work. There's a lot of ways you can use the golden rule, but my using the golden rule in these situations actually has really paid off. Now, Let's talk about when you're trying to sell to an organization, one of the things that really intimidates a lot of people is, where do I start? You know, if I'm selling to an organization of 3 people or an organization of 100,000 people, I may not know who the right person is to talk to. And the truth is, every organization is different. Some people have different organizational structures than others. One of the principles I use is you always start a little higher than you think you need to. In fact, with me, I like to start right at the top. Influence flows downhill, just like water. Influence flows downhill. Let me tell you a story about this to illustrate. I called up and spoke to someone. They were a mid-level person at a company, and she actually hung up on me. Not too long after that, I got an appointment with her boss. And the boss invited her, the very person who had hung up on me, to attend the meeting. This time there was no rudeness. She listened politely. Let me tell you a typical how you could maybe get into an organization. Send an email to the top guy. That could be a CEO. It could be a president. It could be a superintendent. It could be somebody who's at the top of their organization. Now, the chances of you getting a reply on an email are pretty low. But the email gives you a good reason to call and follow up. So you could call up and try to talk to that person. Now, the chances are you're not going to get to that person because they're probably going to have a secretary or an administrative assistant, a gatekeeper of some sort, that's going to say, hey, he's unavailable. And the big shots are always unavailable. However, she may say, you know what, the person you really need to talk to is our director of this, our director of technology, or our director of sales, or our director of somebody. When she does that, or he does that, you can say, hey, would you mind forwarding that email to the appropriate person and just copying me on it? This does wonders. Let me tell you why. When an email is coming from an upper-level gatekeeper rather than you, it has a lot more weight to it than if you had just sent the email to them. So starting at the top and letting them kick you down a level is actually very, very advantageous to your position in selling. So I would start at the top, knowing that you might not get in, have them kick you down a level, and then the chances that you'll be able to follow up with that person go up a lot because the upper level person's gatekeeper is transferring you. I call this jujitsu email. Now, there's a lot of other techniques we could talk about today. We don't have time. We're under a little bit of a time constraint. So let's touch on a few other things. When asking for the appointment, it's important to ask in a way that's non-needy and non-pushy. Let me give you a bad example, and then let me give you a good example. So you could say something like, we have a great product, it's a great deal, and we have a great special going on, and if you can buy by the end of the week, you're going to get a great deal. Can we get an appointment? Most people are turned off by a salesperson being that direct and that pushy. It's kind of what I call the dog chasing principle. Have you ever noticed that when you chase a dog, it runs, but when you run, it chases you? I personally would rather have my prospects chasing me than me chasing them. So another way that I could phrase this is I could say something like this. You know, I'd like to have a few minutes to speak with the CEO. I just need to understand what his goals and his needs are. So if there's a fit, great. If there's not a fit, no big deal. And there may not be a fit. But if I could get a few minutes just to understand his vision and his goals, that would help. And then if there's something to talk about, we can go from there. Notice that the other one was a lot less needy, a lot less pushy, a lot less intense. And so when you ask for the appointment, you need to actually give them an out for them to say no. Maybe it's not a fit. And truthfully, your product may not be a fit to everyone. And you know that. So acknowledge that. Now that we've talked about the dog chasing phenomenon, let me tell you something that I call the dance. All healthy relationships, including sales relationships, are like a dance. So what happens is one person will step back, the other person will step back, then both will step in together. If you watch a dancing couple on TV, they're always constantly stepping back together. Sometimes they'll even come together and embrace. Sometimes they'll even let go for a little bit. But they come back and forth together like a dance. What happens to a lot of salespeople is they forget that they need to keep dancing and they start chasing instead. So what happens is one of the people, usually the prospect, will step back saying, I need to talk this over with my husband or wife, or I need to talk it over with my director of technology, or the secretary that you're trying to get an appointment will say, well, I don't even know if this is a product we need. And then the salesperson, when they hear that, so let's say in this example, the secretary says, well, I don't even know if we have this product. Somebody else is doing this for us already. If the salesperson then decides to step forward instead of stepping back, he might kill the sale. Let me tell you what I mean. This isn't even something we need. I think we have another vendor giving us this product. Yeah, but our product's better, and if you don't do it now, you're going to miss out on this great deal, and I can tell you our product's way better. This causes the person to step back again. If the salesperson keeps pursuing, it's going to turn into a chase. What will probably happen is the secretary may say something like, well, I told you, I think we've already got this product. I don't think we're interested. Let's not talk. But if the secretary steps back and says, I think we might already have this product from someone else. I don't know if we need this. And then the salesperson steps back as well. He says, you're right, maybe you don't need it. In fact, that's why I need a few minutes. I just want to see if there's even a good fit. Maybe I could get a few minutes. If it's not a good fit, then no big deal. And he steps back as well. That gives the secretary a feeling of space that would allow her to say, well, okay, maybe I'll give you 3 minutes with the director or with somebody so that the dance can continue. The key is this. When somebody steps back, you step back with them. And when somebody steps in, which means showing a buying signal, you step in with them as well. Now, these are just a few of the techniques that we've talked about. There's a lot of principles that we could talk about. If you really want to get more information, you can buy my book. It's called The Key to the Gate. This goes in depth about how to get past gatekeepers to the decision maker. If you have a sales team, if you can call me at 801-669-2425, we'll get you a discount and get you this book for your entire team. I also do sales trainings where I can come in and personalize a training to your organization about how to help sell your product and get your product sold to the organizations that you want it to be. Please call me at 801-669-2425, and we'll find a time where we could come out and present to your organization. Thank you. Great leaders know that investing in their people is one of the most high leverage, high return on investment things you can do for your organization. In other words, just changing a few neural pathways in people's head about how to approach a situation that they engage in every day can mean millions of dollars for your organization. Please, allow me the chance to come and present to your group, to find out what you're doing and maybe some things you can improve so that we can take your business to the next level. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you for listening to me today.